All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go for CEO channel where we bring you CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs all around the nation of the United States and around the world. We're exploding around different countries and really excited to have you back on the channel and listening to yet another small to medium-sized business owner that is secretly doing some big, big things. And this guy actually super excited. He's got a little secret that he's been doing that is revolutionizing the world because it's spreading a lot of love. But I'll let him share that piece of the puzzle. I'm excited to have Mr. Dave Krygier from DMK Productions. Thank you so much for joining this Go for CEO channel.
Well, thanks for having me this morning, John. Glad to be with you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, look, we typically start the interviews always with what kind of motivated, what was the inspiration? How did Dave Krygier really think about DMK Productions and how did it really start? So if you can kind of give us that beginning stage story, and then we'll dive into, the day-to-days and how you really run this business. So take it away.
Well, DMK really started back in about 2002. I had started an agency as a consultant and a freelancer. And so I had DMK Productions really on the audio side of the house. We were doing audio, we were doing radio. We were working in that audio music realm and working on different things that had to do with that. And then it kind of evolved, and then it went dormant for quite a few years as I was off working on other projects and doing other things. And then around 2010, 2011, I came back to it. I was writing a lot of content. I was copywriting. I was really starting to gear into working in video again. And so DMK was kind of brought back into that, but overall really working on all sides of production. And so since 2015-16, we've had it set up as a boutique production company. And so we also work on content too. So we're not just in video, we're not just in audio, but we work on the graphics side, we work on the copy side, and we work on the multimedia.
Oh, that's very neat. So you really kind of integrated all the facets of your talents, right? And then created, a really unique little area of the business that has flourished, right, throughout the years. And I've had a chance to hear you speak many times on the Clubhouse stages. Yes, Go for CEO channel, another Clubhouse member coming on board with the Go for CEO community. So tell us a little bit about, you're kind of mixing talents, mixing the abilities of what you have. DMK Productions, gets launched. It has a little bit of dormancy and you kind of come back up. So what are some things that you've been doing over the last few years to really kind of ramp up the production side?
That's a very good question. We've worked on a lot of different things. We've tested a lot of different areas, and we've produced, we're a little like over about 600 videos now that we've created, plus audios, plus copy, plus other kinds of content creation projects. But what I really did was I looked at the different areas that we could offer services and somewhat differentiate ourselves from other competitors. I looked at different areas and different things that I could do to be able to really niche, right? So I looked at the niches. You've probably heard, John, over the years, the riches is in the niches, right? And so
there's another one too, but that one's a guy thing.
Yeah. But I worked for about 6 years in HVAC. We really worked in that industry and developed a very large portfolio in the HVAC industry, doing some really cool things. I mean, that was something that really worked out in a niche. We've continued to work in social, where we film and work with companies, and I take it from a couple of different standpoints. I look at it from the strategic, and I also look at it from the tactical with social and sales, right? So I'm always looking at these different areas. And so that's helped me to niche, there, and be able to, what's the best way to put it? Be able to move things forward and propel things forward so we can branch out, right? We're not stuck, just doing what most people look at. Well, you're just doing video, and you come out and film video and come out and, provide this kind of video or that video. I got into animation right?
Mm.
In 2012, started working in animation. I was a voiceover talent, so that kind of worked into that. And we offered animation and still do to this day. We spread our wings into the industrial sector, with manufacturing and food and beverage, so that it's been fun. It's keeping it and making it fun. So it's not just a grind is probably the best way for me to put it.
Well, and you described, a lot of things there that are really unique, right? The mindset behind even just kind of making sure that you're keeping it fresh, keeping it good. Now, you went deep into one of the industries, right, with the HVAC. So you obviously became really well known there, but then you diversified. The one thing I will say is, on this channel, we talk a lot about, that small business owner, medium-sized business owner that really is growing a business, right? I want to see if you have some insights on really the employee to self-employed to business owner to investor. It seems like because of how talented you are and the mega success you've had with you personally, you create a company, but it's kind of leaning on you with some of the success that you've had, right? So how did you start to develop really kind of the team around DMK Productions, and who needed to be a part of the pieces of the puzzles to really help you expand?
Well, first off, we haven't seen mega success. Okay. We've had our successes, right? But we're a small boutique production and content creation company. At the end of the day, that's what we do. And we also branched off 6 years ago. I branched off working in training and helping people to create content with their mobile devices and tablets. And so I branched off. I have the production company over here, and then I have the little training division over here. And I've had a few people with me, along for that. I've had one gentleman with me since 2013, and he's been such a blessing, right? Working with me on the web side of the house, things to do with the internet and with websites and such. And then I've also had one of our editors has been with us since 2017. It'll be 5 years coming up, and that's finding the people that you gel with, that you can click with, right? And we're human beings, so you don't click with everybody, and some people you click better than others, right? I've also had one of the art directors that's worked with us for about 5-6 years. Maybe it's going on 7 years now, and that's been a blessing. And those people are they're centered to what we do, because I have weaknesses just like everybody else has weaknesses, right? So I have people surround myself with people whenever possible that are much stronger in an area than me, and then have them work and complement, and we collaborate and make things work and happen. I've had people from all walks of life over the years, and many freelancers, in our business and on the production side of the house, it's a world of freelancers, right? So you've got a lot of different freelancers and contractors coming and going, working on different projects, and some stay around for one project, and some are with you for 12 to 15 months, right? It kind of depends. But at being boutique and being small, we've had to be very careful about that, and looking for the contractors, that can come with us and be with us. And some of those freelancers, John, they're with me today, and I might work with them twice a year, on a project. Voiceover talent, they're all over the place, right? And you never know which voice you're going to need for a particular project. Animators, same thing. There's a whole bunch of them, right? And it's just a matter of who's a good fit, who's available, who's going to be able to collaborate with us for the time that we need, etc. So it's somewhat like an agency in the sense, but we're a production company, right? And we create content, and a lot of times create content for other agencies. So the people is really key. I mean, it's really having good quality people around you when you're small like this, even to the accounting side, the legal side, the creation side, the support side, operations, all of it. I mean, because I can't do everything, like I mentioned, and there are some things I'm really great at, and I work on that. And then the things that I'm not, I have to have these people compliment.
And that's a great area to go deeper on. I think a lot of people just don't realize, right? If you could empower yourself, right, to look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm really good at this, right? And not be
Yeah.
afraid to let go of the reins to other things. So why don't we go deeper on this specific, topic? As you start to, as you started to identify some of the talent around you and people that you wanted to work with, what were some vetting things that you maybe have learned throughout the time to ask a certain type of question, to find out their background? Shadow from Clubhouse, and some of the ways that he shared on the Go for CEO channel of how he started recruiting some of the top artists for tattooing. There's some similarities in the sense that you're looking for distinct talents. Is there anything that you've learned that really can share with the community of how you vetted that out?
That's a tough one, John, because I'm constantly always learning and adjusting to where we are in the marketplace, and looking for those people that are not only talented, but they have the heart, and they're not necessarily just looking for a paycheck, right? Or a revenue stream. They're talented, they're good collaborators. I have kind of what I would say over the years, I've built a checklist. So when I'm talking with somebody and getting to know them, whether it's just a first phone call or if we actually do a live interview, where we're located, occasionally we do that, but most of it's Zoom and most of it's on the phone. And so I have this checklist that I go over, to see, is this person, could they fit? How would they fit? Where will they fit? Who will they fit with? Right? It's kind of like the who, what, when, where, why, how. And I look at that and I listen to see and hear, right out of the gate, could they be a great fit? Or are they just going to be a good fit? Or are they going to be a fair fit or not a fit? And there's this checklist. I mean, it's just doing it year after year after year for so many years and working with people. You learn, and generally get a sense of, is this person going to be somebody that could fit and be able to work with us? And whether it's an intern or whether it's a contractor, or if I'm actually looking for an employee, it's the same. I look at the same, because again, we're small, right? And we're boutique. So, we don't have these big operations and we don't have HR people. And, it's me running the company with different people in different areas that specialize, right? And for the most part, John, they're part-timers, so I've got this, group of different part-time freelance and contract people and the occasional employee. So that checklist has been key for me, and it's not to say that it always works, but because people can say one thing and then do another, and it doesn't work out, etc., right? But
Yeah.
having that over the years, and I add to it, and I make my notes. And so when I interview, I say, oh, I got to remember that would that happen in that situation, let's see if we can avoid that, the next time, right? And I think in today's environment, John, what in the time that we're recording this interview, in the last couple of years, and the way some things have changed, it's very different. Now, the one advantage we had is I've been working virtual literally since 2002. So I've had a virtual, I've worked virtual and really web-based virtual since 2010. So way before the times we're in, we were working that way. So I was used to working with people different time zones, figuring out how they're going to fit in, virtually. And then the live people, because we do live production still, that's a constant, pull, tug, pull, because you've got people all over the country you're working with, right? And they're freelancers, and so they're not always available. so you have to, will this one be flexible, et cetera. It's a very different environment than somebody that works in a day in, day out business with the same people every day, 5 days a week.
No, yeah. I mean, being contracted in general, right? And having the gigs that you have throughout the country and probably throughout the world, it's interesting to kind of have that understanding and different personalities, as you said, to treat it. So that's really cool that you have a checklist and it's being perfected every time, little by little. So it's really interesting to hear that. So, all right, let's take a little bit of a turn into, your production and putting that value out there, right, for these companies, as well as yourself. So what are some things that you do to market yourself? And take us back from the beginning, maybe stages of, all right, well, I'm starting this company, maybe my personal talents have been in the marketplace. So that is a sellable thing that you could say now it's just transitioned into a company. But then how do you start to really, have the company be its marketing efforts starting to grow? So any insight on that and how you used your talents to be able to do that?
That's very, very, very good questioning. I have always been a networker, right? In pretty much the businesses that I've been in 10 different startup businesses, not all that I owned, but some I had partnerships, some I owned, but I've been in 10 different ventures for startups, 3 mergers and acquisitions. And throughout all of that, throughout my entire career in business, I've been a networker and been the guy that's generally doing business development, right? So I've had to really look at the different areas that I could do things, because many times we've been doing it guerrilla marketing. We're guerrilla PR, guerrilla advertising. It's we don't have these. We're small business, right? We're a startup. We're doing things with little or next to no money, depending on what the venture was or is. And so I've always networked, and building and looking for the networking. That's how the HVAC worked. As an example, right? I was involved in BNI for about a year and a half, a couple of different BNI groups. And being in BNI, I had never been in a networking group as organized as that. I'd been in a lot of different networking groups and associations and chambers and things like that. But BNI was very structured. And through that, I was referred to somebody and then referred to somebody, and then boom, we clicked and we're into HVAC, basically for 6 years, right? So that networking and relationship allowed me, to move forward in that area. When I was involved in the furniture industry for many years, it was the same thing. It was networking and referrals, right, that allowed me to basically, what I was doing in that industry and the growing that we did, right? The networking has been key. I mean, I look at Clubhouse today and the connections we've made on Clubhouse and been able to do business there, which I never intended on that whatsoever. When I first got on Clubhouse, I didn't have any idea how it worked. And I didn't know, I was just like, this is cool. This guy recommended it to me. And I kind of tested the water for 30 days, to see what could potentially happen. But that networking in me came out, right? There's been a couple of other relationships that have been through a referral, right? And that networking component. So being small, being boutique, in the business that we're in both the training and the production company, we've used that networking more than anything else, has enabled us to, continue to move forward. So, and it's building relationships. Companies come, they go, they get sold, they get merged, they close down. We just lost a great client that they finally decided to close their business. Very sad, but they're very happy because they're retiring. But we had great fun with them. Creating content for them over a period of year and a half. So it happens, right? I mean, these are the days that, and that's why I like that networking, or what I call the Rolodex, and being able to build the relationships that you can count on, right? And be able to move forward.
So we'll go a little deeper on this one. I love the couple subjects we've gone. You really have a ton of insight, and it's pretty cool that I think the community will really learn if you just replay the last minute and a half, Go for CEO community. It was really golden nuggets that you want to pick out of that. So let's go a little bit deeper with some of these relationships. Obviously, it could be either a CRM, right, a contact relationship manager, some sort of Excel spreadsheet that we might have. I mean, we all have these phones now that can carry thousands and thousands of contacts. It seems like you're super very genuine about building those relationships, and like you said, that the networker comes out of you. What are maybe some things that you do that are different? Are you contacting people once a quarter? Do you send out like little, handwritten notes? Like, what is kind of something that Dave Krygier does different? Because what you've actually explained is that without a ton of resources, a ton of money behind you, as far as a business,
Mhm.
you have to become resourceful, right? And I think that's what you are really sharing. So if you don't mind, I'd love to hear some of the mindset of how you actually develop bigger relationships, because I think a lot of people struggle with that. So if you don't mind sharing, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, you're talking as far as cultivating the relationship.
Yeah, yeah. So I know, like right now, just a gentleman named Glenn. How are you taking these new relationships or old ones, and what are you sprinkling, here and there? Is it a note? Is it a call? Is it a text? Is it,
Okay. So,
like what do you do? Because I think that's always intriguing to me. Like someone's successful, but what do they actually do to become successful, right?
right. Well, I think it's key to find out how people like to communicate.
Mhm.
Do they like text? Do they like email? Do they like phone? Right. It's one of the three, or all three, or a combination. So I do my best to find out what they like, how they like to be communicated with. Right. Because about 30% of the population, depending on the survey and the university you go to for the research, will tell you that 30% of the people are oral learners, or they entertain or like audio music, right? And hence Clubhouse, podcasting, right? And music, the combination, and then audio learning, right? Audio books. Okay. That's a big market, right? So I learn, I want to learn, how does somebody like to communicate, right? Because I don't want to send them emails if they don't like receiving emails. They like the text, and I do my best, and I'm human. I don't always nail it, but if I can find out, hey, is that person an email person or a text person, I can get there. And then I find out, the rare occasion, you have the people that they love the phone. Okay. I grew up when I was, tiny. I mean, like 2 years old, 3 years old, they show a picture of me with a phone, cradled back in the days of the dial rotary phones, and the
Oh,
old
wow.
backlight, phones, right? So for me, the phone has been like my lifeline, right, up until the last couple of years. I got onto email very early, so I learned how to use email. In 1995, I was on email
Wow.
and got my first website up August of 1995, and then stayed at the top of the search engines for 6 years, before Google, and then during, right at the very beginning of Google. So I learned the email, how do you, uh, uh, the best practices, in connecting with somebody over email, and, so you don't get yourself in hot water, right? Things like that. But I would learn how to do that, John, and then consistently put that out there. So with, certain people, I'm following up once a week, certain people it's once a month. Glenn's a great example. Him and I are back and forth, communicating. We'll text, and then we get on the phone and we have a pleasant conversation, right? And so everybody's a little bit different, and so that is what I've had to work on over the years, to figure out, is this person, how do they really want to connect? If I can, right? If I can get them on the phone and see, how do you like to communicate? Oh, I'm a texter. Awesome. Okay, that's great to know, or they say, oh no, I'm totally into email, right? And then I'll put them into a follow-up. I use Pipe Drive, which is a pretty inexpensive app, for tracking for sales. And then I also have a couple of different spreadsheets for the different niches and industries that we're working in for some more data. But, Pipe Drive is there. And then when we talk about moving somebody forward, right, from that first point, because in our business, it can be 12 months, right? It can be 6 months. It can be 3 months. I mean, these things some of these projects, John, they don't happen. It's not like, hey, it's going to happen next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the training side of the house, on that funnel, that's a different story. We have things, virtual things, live things, videos, coaching, things are going all the time. And that's for small businesses and nonprofits. So that's a different kind of funnel. And quite frankly, a different kind of selling, right? So I've got the selling over here, which is business development, massaging, relationships, finding out what people want, seeing what their needs are, if they're already working with somebody, all these different questions that we have. And we have documentary work that we do, right? Which some of it comes internally and then we bring it outside a house, and there's development that has to be done there. So that's like a third funnel. So when you hear me talk about in Clubhouse, I'm working 3 funnels. I'm legitimately every week, I have 3 separate funnels on my desk and have to determine how I'm going to work in each funnel and what funnel needs attention so we can keep things propelling and moving forward.
Hey, look, that's the beauty of having many hats, right, that you wear, and seeing that. But, you've obviously developed, nice little integral systems within your daily process and your weekly process and monthly process. So let's go into now the operation side. And I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of the depth so that people can understand, the actual work that you do. So would you mind sharing, DMK Productions, and you said the training. So what are you doing? Are you capturing 10 hours of film and then breaking it down and then splicing it up, and give us some of that nitty gritty stuff that you're doing that's really cool for someone that has zero talent at that. So
well, a typical day for me starts in the office around 7 a.m. And depending on what we have going on both sides of the house, is going to determine what I have planned for the day and for the week, and sometimes right now we're planning February and March, right? We have things in January too, but we're already planning February, March, and we're actually looking at April with some projects and things. But this typical day is at 7 a.m. and I'll spend that first half hour to an hour dealing with the emails, the things that came in overnight, what's happening for the day, what are we going to be working on. I might have people that are working overnight on something, right? And I've got to deal with it that next day, depending on what it is. Like I said, I've got 3 funnels going, so it's kind of like the balls you're constantly juggling, from one side of the office to the other. We have different editors that we work on, and in many cases on projects, I'm rough cutting a project, so I might have 2 to 4 hours in a morning where I'm having to rough cut and work on a project. In other words, computer software, computer monitors up, and I've got a film and or videos that I'm working on in that that morning. Sometimes there's an editor in front of me, right? So I'm the director, I'm in the back, and then we're collaborating, and this person's the technician working on everything, right? That happens. And that could be on the video side. I might be over at the recording studio, working on dialogue replacement or working on music or mixing everything together, or maybe there's even voiceover that I'm involved in. And then we have, other aspects. There's account service. So I'll have a block, generally about noon-ish, depending on the day. I'll have some account service that I have to take care of, and there might be a couple of other people in the mix on that. And then the afternoon can be development and sales, and or sometimes I've got an editor in the seat, if I'm in the studio office that day, and I might be working on business development, sales, from 1, 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, right? We come to Tuesday, and Tuesday happens to be what we call live action day, right? So it's an early start, 6 a.m., have to be prepped on location by 7, and working with 3 of us on a project. We're going to be on that all day long, right? And so till about noon, we're running and gunning at this location, and there's 3 of us, filming, capturing audio, working with people, working with products, right? In this case, it's working in a manufacturing facility. Noon, we'll take a break for lunch, half hour maybe. 12:30, we're back at it till about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And that's where we're getting footage. Now, we're not capturing footage all day, John, okay? It's start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So we might have 100 files that we captured, maybe 150 to 250 gigabytes of digital content that now we have to, once we get back or the next day, we've got to put that onto different drives. We have to set up the edit libraries, the software that we're working with, everybody else that's involved. We're going to get into post-production, right? So that next day we're working on that. And then I've got some other projects I'm working on, but one thing I've learned over the years, and I learned this from one of my mentors back in 2010, a guy named Sean Mize, is he talked about action planning, and that he would not let email disrupt his day throughout the day. Many people, because of our phones now, their email, text, chat, and other apps, things like that. I've over the years worked on that. So I generally, if I'm working on a creative project, I don't let email, get offset me and throw me off, the creative side thing. That's what I have to do as a creative. Some creatives can, leave Clubhouse open all day long, and be on Clubhouse in different rooms, but not really do a heck of a lot. In my case, I have to be there and involved. It just doesn't work for me that way. Anyways, my point is, John, is on the email. I do my best on the office studio days when I'm in the seat to really put email, unless it's a hot back and forth thing on a project, beginning of the day, lunchtime, or the end of the day. So I have these solid blocks of time to be very productive.
So, you really are describing standard operating procedures, right? And really kind of making sure even your days, which day you're in the studio. It's such a cool, different type of business. And it would seem like for a layman like myself in finance and typical businesses, you look at a guy like you and the production company and the training and everything that you do, it's just different every day, right? It's just capturing moments and video, and then going back behind it, like what you said, you had a guy in front of you and you're the behind, and you're trying to. I mean, it's really cool. It's really cool to hear. So, I really am so appreciative of you coming on the Go for CEO channel. Our focus, as you guys know, Go for CEO is small to medium-sized businesses, CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs. And the final questions that we typically ask our CEOs and founders is, C is for client experience, E is for employee engagement, and O is for operational excellence. And you've heard Dave really throughout this interview already share with you little tidbits of what he does to really have a great functioning business. There's ups, there's downs, there's all that type of stuff. But as a small business owner, you really have to just have these things lined up so that you could last. And I know you said, you're not mega, but, hey, after 5 years of business, Dave, I mean, that is mega to me, because so many 90-something% of businesses fail after, that 5-year window, right? So you're a mega success in my life. So,
well, and I want to just put a little side note on that. So we starting in 2010, when I got back into content creation, we had the production company into that business, right? And then in 2015, end of 2015, I stripped it out and then brought the DMK brand back out. So we've technically had this production thing going since 2010.
Nice.
We've had the brand set, since late 2015, right? So I just want to be very transparent about that, because we had this agency going, and one of the things that I did was I said, I've had these different marketing advertising agency stints over the years. I said, but what I really love to do and where I accelerate at and I'm passionate about is content. It's not marketing and SEO and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. It's the content that goes out there, right?
Yeah.
I said, doing all the other stuff, I said, I don't want to do that anymore. So I made that decision. And then in 2018, I took that other brand that I had from the agency, because it was overlapping for a few years, and I said, okay, we're going to put you up on the shelf, because I'm not doing that anymore. My specialty is what I do. I work in content, as you can see here with DMK and with content gathering solutions. And I said, that's where I want to spend the rest of my time here, and pouring into other people and pouring into nonprofits and ministries and small businesses, on how they can really, really create better content and tell better stories.
Impactful, right? I mean, when, they say I don't, it's a high percentage, but video is just the way it is, right? I mean, people are consuming video at enormous rates over the last 5-10 years, especially on the internet. And if you're not doing video in a meaningful way, like purposeful way, and working with guys like you, it could give the wrong impression of quality, right? Of dedication to it. So, but no, awesome stuff. So let's get this to a point where, we share with people the value propositions of DMK Productions and your training company. Again, C is client experience, E is employee engagement, O is for operational excellence. Dave, what would you say is kind of the top level, macro, or I'm sorry, macro, I was confused, macro way of looking at what is the value proposition of your client experience? So when a client is coming to do business with you and your companies, what should they expect? What is that differentiating factor?
Well, probably the biggest differentiating factor is, I'm on the front end, right? And I'm going to make sure that the experience that they have, because they're dealing with me, because I'm so small, I have a few different roles that I have to be in, not only as the creative, but as the account director, right? So they're getting me. They're not getting on the account direction side. So, on the production side, we don't handle, massive volumes of projects, right? So they get me with that. And that's 30, what am I on? 30, since 1985. So was it 37 years now of experience, right? And so it's being able to take care of that client to the best of my ability, right? And making sure that they get that support. That's number one. Number two is, as a content creator, right? I've spent a big chunk of my life in these different areas. So generally when they go to a video production company, they'll get a guy and he's a director. They get a guy and he's the owner and the producer, right? Or they'll get this guy and he happens to be a camera guy, depending on the company, right? With me, I've done all those things, and some of them for years. And then I added copywriting to that. And then I spent a lot of years in photography. Okay. So I'm a content creator. So when I sit down with somebody, John, the difference is when they talk to me, if they're a small business or a nonprofit, I speak the languages really fluent, and I speak some of the dialects very deep. Okay. Furniture, HVAC as examples, alternative medicine. Okay. Finance, not deep, but I have finance in certain areas. So they get that with me, right? Which is not traditionally what you would get when you hire a production company or a content creation company. That person will shift you over to somebody else, right? Who goes to somebody else, and then you're dealing with 2 or 3 different people. I've stayed small and boutique so I can pour into people, right? And then the people that they get from that work with me, right? They're going to get pros. So that's the difference there.
So I'm sure the Go for CEO community just picked up on the last minute and a half. Like you perked up, right? You really got super passionate there, and you could see your body language change when you started talking about why people should do business with you. So I'm excited. I think as this gets out into the universe and they see that specific last minute and a half was a total game changer of like, wow, man, I really should do business with. So, you never know. You're going to
Thank
get some
you.
good leads out of this opportunity. So,
Thank you,
so
John.
no, I really felt that passion, and you could see the dynamic in your body language change. So employee engagement, I know that you say, you're a boutique and you get small boutique, but there's vendors, there's people that you have to get contractors, the freelancers you talked about before.
Yeah.
Like, why do they want to engage with you? Why, like, give us some of the that top level, right? That value proposition of why people love doing business with you in that capacity.
Well, if I look at some of the different production people that I've worked with over the years, or I currently have two executive producers, that work with me, um, it's very different in the sense that when I engage with them, right, I have what I call no BDS, bologna disguised as salami. Okay. Different people can interpret that different ways, but that's the way I look at it. And it's like, look, if we can engage in a level like that, and in some cases it works really good. And so on high levels, I've had some different production people that I work with that we just have honest conversations. They're pros, we're pros, and we can figure out a way that will your style work with what we're doing. And if that works, John, right, and we can get that to gel. And I generally know within, we'll do a test. I'm doing a test with a guy right after Christmas. And I say, let's do a test and see if you and I can collaborate and work together, right? And if you'll come to like me and I'll come to like you, and we can develop this relationship and we'll see where it goes. And it may not work, right? I have another guy doing the same thing the 3rd, 4th of January, right? Let's do a test and see if we're not like hammering on each other, are we going to make it work, right? Because I'm not for everybody. I love Jay Handler. He says, look, I'm not for everybody, right? And I feel the same way. And in certain cases, I can click with these people, right? And in other cases, it just doesn't work, and we just know that it's just not gonna gel and click. Does that make sense?
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, I think that's a huge component of knowing thyself, right? And understanding kind of where the strengths are and how you'll develop that so that, as you work on a project, you're not wondering like, oh man, am I going to have to pick this person up? We all know the days of high school and college, right? And doing projects with people. And you knew, man, there was 4 of us. There's
Yeah.
one of them that's going to dominate the whole thing. The
Yeah.
second one may help pretty good. Third one is slacker, and the fourth one's doing nothing.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's an incredible human dynamic, right? So the last one is operational excellence, and you talked a little bit about the tools and the things that you're using. Give us a little bit of insight on that part of just how you feel like you operationally, even though maybe you're tweaking all the time. What are like the checklists? Like, what are some things that you do really excellent in operations?
Well, I'm a detail guy, so I'm dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I was just talking to my mom about this yesterday because her and I ran a business together for about 12 years. And I had an in-house agency at that business. And, we were talking about we're those kinds of people. We're the dot the I's, cross the T's, making sure that we don't drop balls. Right. And I told you this earlier, John. I shared, look, I'm human, it happens. But I always look at that. I look at, keeping, one of the things I keep is really pretty good overall client logs. So we have basically a notes section for each client, recording conversations. Typing, right? We record conversations if they give us permission and they want a copy of it. But I really look at how I can keep that note section, and make sure so I can go back in a conversation, and I had to actually do this just the other day with somebody. And I went back and said, yeah, we had a conversation on this particular day. and this is what we talked about, right? And I wrote it down, right? And I do that. And part of that, John, was simply for the fact that I had a concussion many years ago. And I found that for whatever reason after that, I was forgetting, and I when I'd have conversations with people, so I would literally run these notes. So coach, he would say, how do you do this? And I say, well, I keep notes literally on every conversation, not 100%, but as close as I can. I will keep notes, right? Because there could be something integral from that conversation that I can bring back. Hence, I've tracked my progress on Clubhouse. You want to talk about operationally? I said, if I'm going to put time into this thing, I said, I'm going to test it, because I'm a direct response marketer at heart, dating back to 1989. And I said, if I'm going to do this and test and not waste time and money, I said, let's see what happens. And so I would literally log and have the different conversations and dates and, fine points and things like that. So that's one thing I do. The other thing is that I'm very careful with my time operationally. And when people that work with me, in many cases, if I can work with them and collaborate with them with, it's kind of like the stopwatch method, so we're very, very careful on the time that we're putting in, that we're not wasting time, right? Because time is all we have. At the end of the day, you have relationships, the time that you have in the day, and then at some point you're no longer going to be here, right? So what did you do with your time? And so I look at that time, and I'm very, for the most part, as much as I can on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, really looking operationally at the time and what's going into this, how long did it take here, how long did it take? So I can really look at my margins. I can look at what it takes for people to do things. I can go back and look at different logs and make sure that there's profitability. If we're going to go into a new project, why didn't it work there? Oh, this one worked great. What did we do different, et cetera. So I'm always looking at that operationally, and that comes from my management background, in that family business, having an agency with partners. I've been the operations guy or part of that critical operations in many of these ventures. So it's helped offset my creative brain. We talk left brain, right brain, so I got operations is pulling this way and creative's pulling that way. And then I kind of, meet in the middle.
Well, hey, it's good to have a good mix, right? Some
Yeah.
of us are completely right-brainers and completely left-brainers, and
Right.
very hard to even mix in a dash of the other one. So,
Yeah.
so hey, look, as we wrap up the interview, super thankful, Dave. Incredible interview. I think that especially that client experience where it kind of, I saw your body language change. It's incredible to see the passion that you truly do have for what you do. And it's really cool to hear how you've kind of niched it down and decided, like, hey, no, these are my lanes and this is where I really do well. And it's really cool. You could feel that presence in it. So I'd love to, I hinted at the beginning of the interview that we had a little surprise. So I'd love for you to take maybe another minute or so or two on the love project. So I know it's something that's true, near and dear to your heart. And I hope that people, even at the, if you've gone through this whole video or if you're just seeing the end of this, this is a really cool project that Dave has put his whole heart into. And I'd love for you to just share that love project and what's going on with that.
Well, John, it's been a pleasure being with you, and thank you from me to you for allowing me to be with you and your audience this morning. And hopefully there's a little bit of a nugget that's in there somewhere for somebody that we can sew into them. But the Love Project was one that goes back to 2018. John Pogashar, who's the founder of it, I connected with him exactly 3 years ago, November of 2018, and we were contacted by another gentleman to be able to document what they were doing. And the first billboard went up. It was love on every billboard. And so they had this vision to put these billboards up to just share love with the world, right? No hashtags, no URLs, no marketing messages, no co-branding, just the word love. And so we documented that. We worked with them for 3, 4, 5 months. and got to know John, kind of kept in touch with John, and that kept going and kept going and kept going. And through the time that we had over the last couple of years, and then this last spring, John was being interviewed in a television station. He's had a ton of PR, natural organic PR. That's just kind of happened as he's gone along. And he talked to the reporter and said, yeah, I'd really like to do a film at some point. And over this past summer, I was thinking about him and thinking, I wonder what's going on with that project. What a natural organic story. It's so cool. I have to touch bases with John. And I did that. And we reconnected. And I shared with him my vision. I said, we should do a documentary film on this. I mean, it's so natural what you've done. You're now in 15 states, 5 countries, and growing, right? With no resources, no foundational support, right? Running on a shoestring, and keep spreading the message of love. And so we kind of went out on faith. We stepped out onto the high diving board, John, and said, okay, let's see what we can do with this. And so we're in the process now of, looking for the support to be able to work on the film. John's working on a book, and then we're going to do film festivals, and then hopefully distribution with that. So we've stepped out on faith and are just looking for those people and companies that want to be along on the journey as the message spreads from where it's at right now to all over the world.
Well, on Clubhouse, I'm called John the Bomb, right? Building others means business. And
Yeah.
gosh, that last minute and a half there, I hope you really found that true meaning is really about spreading love, and really cool that you specifically, right? The DMK Productions, your training business, this the small boutique business is a part of this global way of really spreading love. So I wanted to give it its just due at
Thank
the end
you.
of this interview. So thank you so much, Dave, for being a part of the Go for CEO channel. Any last words?
All I can say is, if you're just getting your business started, or whatever you're working on in your business, plug into this channel. There's so many great nuggets, tidbits, strategies, tactics from so many different kinds of people. And you never know where that's going to be coming from and who's going to sow into you. But take a look, scan through the Go for CEO channel and dig in. You'll find some people that you connect with, and you'll be able to learn so much more. And hopefully it'll help continue to propel your business forward.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. So, I
Welcome.
forgot to ask, how do people get a hold of you? So is it a website? Is it an email? Where are you on Instagram? What are some ways so we can end it with that?
Okay, so for the Love Billboards film, you can go to lovebillboardsfilm.com, and you can get in touch with us that way. For production company work back here, that's dmkproductions.tv, dmkproductions.tv. And then we also have our content training company, that's contentgathering.solutions, contentgathering.solutions. So that's the 3 ways that people can get in touch with us, and we'll communicate with them whichever way they want.
Well, I love it. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead. If you are new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, leave a comment for Dave. I know he'll be super interactive with anything that you want to be a part of as far as the conversation. And looking forward to having this be one of the great videos that we drop on the Go for CEO channel. So thanks so much, Dave, for coming on to the channel.
Great to see you, John. Thanks for having me today.